Captain Jinwoo pressed his face against the cold glass of the observation deck. Stars filled the darkness like scattered diamonds. He had been traveling through space for 12 years, but the sight still made him feel small and amazed. "Captain, we are approaching the target system," called Minji from the navigation station. Her voice echoed through the bridge of their ship, the Harmony. It was not a big ship, but it was their home among the stars. Jinwoo walked back to his command chair. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. Taehyun sat at the engineering console, watching the engine readings with careful eyes. Yuna monitored communications, listening for any signals from other ships or planets. Donghyun kept watch on the security systems, always ready for trouble. "Show me what we found," Jinwoo said. The main screen lit up with images of a star system. 3 planets orbited a yellow sun, much like Earth's sun, but what caught their attention was the smallest planet. It looked like it was made of crystal. "The readings are strange," Minji said, pushing her black hair behind her ear. "The planet appears to be completely crystalline. We have never seen anything like it." Taehyun looked up from his console. "The energy readings are off the charts. Something on that planet is producing massive amounts of power." "Any signs of life?" Jinwoo asked. Yuna shook her head. "No biological signatures, but there are definitely artificial structures on the surface. Someone built something there, Captain." Jinwoo thought for a moment. This was why they were here, far from Earth in unexplored space. The human exploration program had sent dozens of ships like theirs to map new worlds and search for signs of alien civilizations. Most of the time they found empty planets and dead rocks floating in space. "Take us in for a closer look," he decided. The Harmony moved toward the crystal planet. As they got closer, the structures became clearer on their screens. Ancient buildings rose from the planet's surface like frozen lightning. Everything seemed to be made of the same clear blue crystal as the planet itself. "There," Donghyun pointed to a section of the planet. "That looks like a landing area." They were right. A flat area near the largest structure seemed designed for ships to land. Strange symbols were carved into the crystal surface around it. "Atmospheric readings?" Jinwoo asked. "Breathable," Taehyun reported. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth normal. Temperature is cool but comfortable. We can walk around without suits." "Good. Minji, you are with me. Taehyun, keep the engines ready. Yuna, monitor all frequencies. Donghyun, watch our backs." "Yes, Captain," they all replied. The landing was smooth. The crystal surface held their ship's weight without any problems. Jinwoo and Minji stepped outside, into the strange world. The air smelled clean and empty, like mountain air after snow. The crystal buildings towered above them. Each one was perfectly smooth and clear, like they had been carved from single pieces of giant gemstones. Light from the yellow sun passed through them, creating rainbow patterns on the ground. "This is incredible," Minji whispered. "How old do you think these structures are?" "Very old," Jinwoo replied. He touched one of the crystal walls. It was warm under his hand. "But someone maintained them. They are too perfect to be abandoned ruins." They walked deeper into the crystal city. Every building was empty, but not destroyed or damaged. It felt like the builders had simply walked away one day and never returned. At the center of the city stood the largest structure. It was shaped like a pyramid but with smooth flowing curves instead of sharp edges. Symbols covered its surface, glowing with soft blue light. "Captain," Yuna's voice came through their communicators. "I am picking up energy readings from your location. Something big just activated." Jinwoo and Minji looked around. The symbols on the pyramid were glowing brighter now. "We should go back," Minji said, but it was too late. A doorway opened in the pyramid's side, revealing a passage that led down into darkness. Cool air flowed out, carrying a sound like distant music. "Captain, the energy readings are going crazy," Taehyun's voice crackled through their communicators. "Whatever you did down there, it woke something up." Jinwoo made a decision that would change everything. "We came here to explore. Let's see what we found." They walked into the pyramid. The passage was lined with more glowing symbols. As they moved deeper, the symbols began to pulse faster, like a heartbeat. The passage opened into a vast chamber. In the center stood a platform surrounded by crystalline pillars. On the platform was something that looked like a control panel, covered with symbols similar to those outside. "It's some kind of control room," Minji said. Jinwoo approached the platform carefully. The symbols were pulsing in a pattern now, almost like they were trying to communicate something. "Captain, you need to get out of there now." Dongyun's urgent voice came through their communicators. Something is coming out of the structure. Something big. But curiosity won over caution. Jinwoo reached out and touched one of the glowing symbols. The chamber exploded with light. When their vision cleared, the symbols were all glowing at once. A deep humming sound filled the air, growing louder and louder. The crystal pillars began to move, rotating around the platform in a complex pattern. "Run," Jinwoo said. They ran through the passage as the humming became a roar. Behind them, the pyramid was coming alive with light and energy. They burst out into the crystal city just as something erupted from the pyramid's top. It was huge. It looked like a dragon from old Earth stories, but made of light and shadow instead of flesh and scales. Its body was white like fresh snow, but it seemed to glow from within. Wings that spanned the width of the city spread from its back as it rose into the air. The creature's eyes found them immediately. They were ancient eyes, older than the crystal city, older than the planet itself, and they were looking at the two humans with an intelligence that was both terrible and wonderful. "Back to the ship now," Jinwoo shouted. They ran as the dragon circled overhead. It made no sound except for the whisper of its wings through the air. When they reached the Harmony, Taehyun already had the engines running. "Go, go, go," Jinwoo yelled as they jumped aboard. The ship lifted off as the dragon descended toward them. For a moment, Jinwoo thought it would attack. Instead, it hovered in the air, watching them with those ancient eyes. Then something changed in its expression. The dragon's head tilted, like it was listening to something only it could hear. Its eyes fixed on their ship with a new intensity. "Hyperspace. Now," Jinwoo ordered. The stars stretched into lines as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. They had escaped, but somehow Jinwoo knew this was not the end. Something in those ancient eyes told him that their encounter with the white dragon was just the beginning. Behind them, in the crystal city, the dragon watched the spot where their ship had disappeared. Then, with movements too graceful for something so large it began to follow their trail through folded space itself. 3 days had passed since they escaped from the crystal planet. Captain Jinwoo thought they were safe, but he was wrong. "Captain, you need to see this," Minji called from her navigation station. Her voice was tight with worry. Jinwoo rushed to look at her screen. Behind their ship, space was bending in ways that should not be possible. Reality twisted like water, and through the distortion came the white dragon. "How is that possible?" Taehyun asked, staring at his instruments. "Nothing can follow a ship through hyperspace." The dragon moved through folded space like it was swimming through water. Its white scales caught the light of distant stars, making it glow like a ghost in the darkness. "It's been following us for 3 days, Yuna said, checking her communications equipment. "I've been picking up strange signals, but I thought they were just space noise." Dongyun activated the ship's defensive systems. "Should I prepare weapons, Captain?" "No," Jinwoo said. "If it wanted to destroy us, it would have done so already. There's something else it wants." The dragon kept pace with their ship, never getting closer, never falling behind. It just watched them with those ancient eyes. "Set course for the Kepler station," Jinwoo ordered. "Maybe we can get help there." But when they arrived at the busy space station, the dragon arrived too. Other ships scattered in panic when they saw the massive creature. Station security contacted the Harmony immediately. "Unknown vessel, you are bringing a dangerous entity into our space." The security chief's voice crackled over their communications. "Leave immediately or we will open fire." "We're trying to get away from it," Jinwoo replied. "It's been following us for days." The dragon circled the space station once, its eyes never leaving the Harmony. Then it did something that made everyone freeze. It passed through the station's metal hull like it was made of air. Impossible, Taehyun whispered. Solid matter can't do that. The dragon emerged on the other side of the station, completely unharmed. It had phased through hundreds of meters of steel and machinery like they were nothing. Get us out of here, Jinwoo said. They jumped to hyperspace again, but the dragon followed. No matter where they went, it found them. They tried hiding in asteroid fields, behind planets, even inside the atmosphere of a gas giant. Nothing worked. On the fourth day, they received an unexpected message. It came from an old cargo ship that looked like it had been flying for 100 years. The ship's captain was a Keltharian, one of the oldest known alien races. His name was Vex. Human ship, Vex's translated voice came through their speakers. I see you carry the Pale Hunter with you. This is most unusual. The Pale Hunter? Jinwoo asked. That is what we call the White Dragon, Vex explained. It is older than my people, older than most civilizations in this galaxy. Legend says it sleeps for millions of years at a time. Why is it following us? The Pale Hunter awakens only when the galaxy faces its greatest threat, Vex said. It has slept for 10 million cycles. The question is not why it follows you, small mammals. The question is what great danger approaches that requires the hunter to wake. The connection ended, leaving the crew in worried silence. 10 million years, Minji said quietly. What could sleep that long? Something that doesn't want to be awake unless it has to be, Jinwoo replied. They changed course again, heading for the outer rim of the galaxy. Maybe if they got far enough away from populated space, the dragon would lose interest. But as they traveled, strange things began to happen. The dragon started moving differently. Instead of just following them, it began to circle their ship in complex patterns. Sometimes it would speed ahead, then slow down and wait for them to catch up. It's hurting us, Dongyun realized. Like a shepherd with sheep. But where is it? Taking us? Yuna asked. They got their answer 2 days later. The dragon guided them to a system with no name on any star chart. There was only one planet, dark and cold, orbiting a dying red star. Life signs? Jinwoo asked. None, Minji reported. But there are structures on the surface, big ones. The planet's surface was covered with ancient ruins. Massive stone pyramids and metal towers reached toward the sky. Everything was old, far older than the crystal city where they had found the dragon. These ruins are different, Taehyun said, studying his readings. They're not from one civilization. I'm seeing at least 12 different architectural styles down there. 12 different alien races built on the same planet? Yuna asked. Or, they were brought here, Jinwoo said grimly. The dragon landed on the planet's surface near the largest structure. For the first time since they had awakened it, the creature stopped moving. It folded its wings and waited. It wants us to go down. There, Minji said. I don't like this. Donghyun muttered, checking his weapons again. But Jinwoo knew they had no choice. The dragon had led them here for a reason. If they wanted answers, they would have to follow. They landed their ship near the dragon. Up close, the creature was even more impressive. Its scales seemed to shift between solid matter and pure light. When it breathed, small stars appeared in the air around its nostrils. The dragon turned its massive head toward them and made a sound like distant thunder. Then it began walking toward the largest ruin. I think it wants us to follow, Yuna said. They walked behind the dragon through the ruins. Each structure they passed was built by a different alien race. Some were made of crystal like the city where they had found the dragon. Others were metal, stone, or materials they didn't recognize. This is a graveyard, Minji whispered. All these civilizations are dead. The dragon led them to a building that looked like it was made of black glass. Inside, the walls were covered, with pictures and symbols from dozens of different alien cultures. At the center of the room was a map of the galaxy, but it was not showing the galaxy as it was now. It showed something approaching from the dark space between galaxies, something vast and hungry. The dragon touched the map with one claw, and the images began to move. They showed the approaching, Threat destroying entire star systems, consuming planets, turning living worlds into empty husks. What is that? Taehyun asked. The dragon looked at them with its ancient eyes, and for the first time, they saw something that might have been fear. Whatever was coming. It was something that even a creature that could sleep for 10 million years was afraid to face alone. The map showed horror beyond imagination. Dark shapes moved between the stars, consuming everything in their path. Entire solar systems disappeared as the creatures passed through them. How long do we have? Captain Jinwoo asked, staring at the moving images. The dragon touched different parts of the map. The pictures changed, showing the dark entities getting closer to their galaxy. Based on their speed, Jinwoo estimated they had maybe 6 months before the creatures arrived. We have to warn everyone, Yuna said. The whole galaxy needs to know what's coming. But the dragon shook its massive head. It touched another part of the map, showing dozens of different alien civilizations. Each one had tried to fight the dark entities. Each one had failed and been consumed. Previous attempts to stop them didn't work, Minji said, understanding the dragon's message. The dragon nodded, then did something unexpected. It began to glow brighter, and suddenly the crew could hear its thoughts in their minds. The voice was ancient and tired, like wind blowing through empty ruins. I have watched for eons, the dragon's mental voice said. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. The devourers come every 100 million years, cleaning the galaxy of life. Each time I search for those who might stop them. Stop them how? Jinwoo asked aloud. Images flowed into their minds. The dragon showed them how the galaxy's defense systems worked. Ancient machines built by the first intelligent races, hidden in the space between stars. These machines could create barriers that the devourers could not cross. But the machines need a key. The dragon continued. Not a physical key, but something from a living mind. Something the devourers cannot understand or consume. What kind of something? Taehyun asked. The dragon's mental voice grew uncertain. In all my searching, I have never found it. I have tested thousands of species, millions of individuals. All fail when faced with true cosmic terror. The crew exchanged glances. They were being tested, but for what? The key is not courage, the dragon explained. Many species are brave. It is not intelligence, for many races are wise. It is something else, something I have never encountered. Suddenly, alarms began sounding from their ship. Dongyun ran to check the readings. Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching the system, he called out, big ones. Through the building's transparent walls, they could see space beginning to distort. The devourers were arriving early. The dragon's mental voice filled with urgency. We must leave this place. They have found us. How? Minji asked. We're nowhere, near inhabited space. They follow the wake of fear, the dragon replied. All who learn of their approach create ripples in space-time. They sense these ripples and come to investigate. The crew ran back to their ship as reality began to tear apart around them. Through the rips in space, they caught glimpses of the devourers. They were not solid creatures like the dragon. Instead, they looked like living darkness, with too many angles, shapes that hurt to look at directly. Get us out of here, Jinwoo shouted as they reached the Harmony. Taehyun's hands flew over the engine controls. Hyperspace engines are charging, but it will take 30 seconds. We don't have 30 seconds, Dongyun said, watching the approaching entities on his screens. The dragon suddenly appeared between their ship and the devourers. It spread its wings wide and began to glow with brilliant white light. The dark entity slowed, seeming confused by the dragon's presence. It's buying us time, Yuna realized. The hyperspace engines finally activated, and they jumped away just as the devourers reached the dragon's position. In the last second before they disappeared, they saw the dragon phase out of normal space, escaping the dark entities by existing in multiple dimensions at once. They emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the galaxy, farther from home than any human had ever traveled. Here space was empty and cold, with only a few dim stars scattered across vast distances. Where are we? Minji asked, checking her navigation equipment. The galactic rim, Jinwoo replied. Nothing out here but empty space and old legends. But they were wrong. As their sensors adjusted to the new location, they began to detect massive structures floating in the void. Ancient space stations, each one larger than Earth's moon, drifted silently between the stars. "Those are the monitoring stations," a familiar mental voice said. The dragon materialized beside their ship, apparently unharmed by its encounter with the Devourers. "These stations watch the spaces between galaxies," the dragon explained. "They were built by the first civilization to face the Devourers over 2 billion years ago." The stations looked dead, but as the dragon approached them, lights began to flicker on across their surfaces. Ancient machinery hummed to life after eons of sleep. "The stations are awakening," the dragon said. They sensed the approaching threat. Suddenly, every monitoring station began broadcasting on all frequencies. Warning signals in hundreds of different languages filled space, telling any who could listen that the Devourers were coming. "Will anyone understand the warnings?" Yuna asked. "Most civilizations are too young to recognize the old languages," the dragon replied sadly. "They will think the signals are just cosmic noise." Jinwoo watched the ancient station sending their desperate messages into the void. Somewhere in the galaxy, billions of beings were going about their daily lives, unaware that extinction was approaching. "There has to be something we can do," he said. The dragon turned its ancient eyes toward him. "Perhaps there is. You humans are different from other species I have encountered. The way you think, the way you respond to danger, it is unlike anything I have seen before." "Different how?" "When I first appeared on the crystal world, most species would have fled immediately or attacked in panic. You did neither. You were afraid, yes, but you also showed curiosity. You wanted to understand." The dragon moved closer to their ship, its massive form blocking out the stars. "And when the Devourers appeared, you did not despair. Even now, faced with the end of everything, you ask what can be done rather than accepting defeat." "Because there's always something that can be done," Minji said. "There has to be." The dragon was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, perhaps that is what I have been searching for all these eons. The refusal to accept the impossible." It guided them to the largest monitoring station. Inside, they found the control center for the galaxy's ancient defense network. The machines were incredibly complex, covered with symbols and controls from dozens of extinct civilizations. "The defense grid can stop the Devourers," the dragon explained. "But it requires a specific activation sequence, a mental pattern that must be broadcast from this station across the entire galaxy." "What kind of pattern?" Taehyun asked. "That is what I do not know," the dragon admitted. "Every species that has tried has failed. The pattern must be something the Devourers cannot consume or corrupt, something uniquely resistant to despair and cosmic horror." Jinwoo looked at his crew. They were 5 humans, alone at the edge of everything, facing a threat that had destroyed countless civilizations. By all logic, they should be terrified beyond reason. Instead, he found himself thinking about how ridiculous their situation was. Just a week ago, their biggest worry was running out of coffee. Now they were supposedly the galaxy's last hope. The thought almost made him smile. "Captain," Donghyun said, checking his long-range sensors. "The Devourers just entered our galaxy. They're moving fast." Through the station's ancient viewing screens, they could see reality bending at the galaxy's edge as the dark entities poured through. Stars began to flicker and die as the creatures passed them. "Time grows short," the dragon said. "If we cannot activate the defense grid within days, all will be lost." Jinwoo nodded, but strangely, he wasn't afraid anymore. Scared, yes, but not terrified. There was something almost absurd about their situation that made fear seem pointless, and in that moment he began to understand what the dragon had been searching for all these millions of years. The ancient control room hummed with power as systems that had slept for millions of years came back to life. Captain Jinwoo and his crew stood before machines they couldn't understand, while outside the station's windows, the galaxy was dying. The Devourers moved through space like a plague of living darkness. Wherever they passed, Stars went out and planets crumbled to dust. They consumed not just matter and energy, but the very concepts of existence itself. The defense grid is charging, the dragon reported, its mental voice filled with urgency. But I need the activation pattern. Without it, the machines are useless. How do we find this pattern? Minji asked, studying the complex controls. The dragon moved to the center of the room, where a crystalline sphere hung suspended in the air. The pattern must come from a living mind. It will be scanned by this device and transmitted across the galaxy simultaneously. And if we get it wrong? Taehyun asked. Then the grid will shut down permanently, and the devourers will consume everything. No. Pressure, Jinwoo thought grimly. The dragon began sharing visions directly with their minds. They saw the testing process as it had happened countless times before. Brave warriors, wise philosophers, and brilliant scientists from hundreds of different species had stood where they now stood. Each had tried to provide the mental pattern needed to activate the defense grid. All had failed. What happens when they fail? Yuna asked. The dragon showed them. The scanner would probe the volunteer's mind, searching for the specific pattern needed. When it found only normal responses to cosmic terror, fear and despair and hopelessness, the grid would reject the pattern as unusable. The devourers feed on negative emotions, the dragon explained. Any pattern containing fear or despair would make the defense grid vulnerable to them. They could corrupt it and turn it against us. So we need someone who isn't afraid? Dongyun asked. No, the dragon said. Fear is natural when facing annihilation. The pattern must be something else, something the devourers cannot understand or corrupt. Through the station's viewing screens, they watched another star system disappear into the devourers' darkness. At their current speed, the entities would reach the galaxy's inhabited core in less than 2 days. I'll try first, Jinwoo said, stepping toward the scanner. Captain, wait, Minji protested. What if it damages your mind? Someone has to do it. If I fail, one of you can try next. Jinwoo placed his hand on the crystalline sphere. Immediately, alien technology began probing his thoughts. He felt the scanner examining his memories, his fears, his hopes for the future. The machine found his terror of the devourers, his worry for his crew, his sadness at the thought of Earth being destroyed. Normal responses to an impossible situation. The scanner rejected his pattern. I'm sorry, Captain, the dragon said. Your mind contains too much conventional fear. Minji stepped forward next. The scanner examined her thoughts of home, her love for her family, her scientific curiosity about the universe. But it also found her very reasonable terror at the approaching darkness. Rejected. Taehyun tried next, then Yuna, then Donghyun. Each time, the result was the same. The scanner found normal, healthy responses to cosmic horror and deemed them unsuitable for the defense grid. There must be something we're missing, Yuna said as they regrouped. Some quality that humans have that other species lack. The dragon settled its massive form on the floor, looking more tired than they had ever seen it. I had hoped, but perhaps I was wrong about your species. Perhaps no one can provide the pattern I seek. Outside, more stars were dying. The devourers were accelerating, drawn by the fear and despair of entire civilizations as they realized their doom was approaching. Wait, Taehyun said suddenly. Dragon, show us more of the failed attempts. I want to see exactly what happened. The dragon shared visions of the testing process again. They watched as proud warriors faced the scanner with stoic bravery, as wise leaders accepted their fate with dignity, as brilliant minds calculated the odds and found them hopeless. They all responded the same way, Minji observed, with acceptance or courage or despair. But what if that's not what we need? Jinwoo asked. What if the pattern isn't about courage or wisdom at all? The dragon's ancient eyes focused on him intently. Explain. You said the devourers consume concepts, right? They feed on emotions like fear and despair. But what if there's a human response they can't digest? What response? The dragon asked. Jinwoo thought about humanity's long history, He remembered stories of soldiers laughing in the trenches during terrible wars, of people making jokes at their own funerals, of comedians finding humor in the darkest situations. "We laugh," he said simply. "Laugh?" The dragon's mental voice was confused. At impossible situations, at cosmic jokes, at the absurdity of existence itself. Jinwoo looked at his crew. "Remember when we first saw you on the Crystal Planet? Taehyun made a joke about alien insurance policies." "That was just nervous laughter," Taehyun protested. "Was it? Or were we finding humor in a situation that should have been purely terrifying?" The dragon was very still. "Show me these memories." Jinwoo shared his thoughts of human humor, comedians making audiences laugh about death and taxes, soldiers cracking jokes in the face of danger, people finding the funny side of disasters and tragedies. "I do not understand," the dragon admitted. "How can you find amusement in suffering?" "We don't laugh at suffering," Minji explained. "We laugh at the absurdity of life itself, the cosmic joke that we're here at all, that we keep trying to make sense of things that make no sense." When faced with the impossible, Yuna added, "Humans often respond with laughter. Not because we're not afraid, but because fear and laughter can exist together." The dragon pondered this for a long moment. "In all my eons of existence across countless species and civilizations, I have never encountered this response. The ability to find amusement in cosmic horror itself. Maybe that's what you've been searching for," Dongyun suggested. "Not courage or wisdom, but the ability to laugh at the darkness." The dragon moved to the scanner again. "If this is true, then the pattern I seek is not the absence of fear, but the presence of something the devourers cannot comprehend. They understand terror, despair, even courage and hope, but laughter at the cosmic joke itself. They can't consume something they don't understand," Jinwoo realized. Through the viewing screens, they could see the devourers had reached the galaxy's middle rim. Civilizations were broadcasting desperate messages for help, unaware that their savior might be 5 humans at the edge of everything. "One more test," the dragon said. "But this time, do not try to suppress your fear. Instead, embrace the absurdity of your situation. 5 small beings from a tiny planet trying to save a galaxy they barely understand." Jinwoo approached the scanner again, but this time he was thinking about how ridiculous their situation truly was. A week ago, he was worried about fuel efficiency reports. Now he was humanity's representative in a cosmic battle for existence. The scanner began probing his mind again, but this time it found something different. Along with the fear and worry, it discovered something the devourers had never encountered, a human's ability to find the universe hilariously absurd, even in the face of absolute terror. The scanner paused, analyzing this new pattern. And for the first time in 10 million years, it began to accept a mental pattern as suitable for the defense grid. The dragon's eyes widened in wonder. "Impossible joy," it whispered. "You have found impossible joy in the face of cosmic horror." The scanner completed its analysis and began transmitting the pattern across the galaxy. But would it work? They were about to find out. The pattern was transmitting across the galaxy, but something was wrong. The defense grid was powering up slowly, too slowly. Through the viewing screens, they could see the devourers accelerating toward the galaxy's core, drawn by the fear of billions of sentient beings. "It is not enough," the dragon said, its mental voice heavy with disappointment. "The pattern is correct, but it lacks the power needed to fully activate the grid." Captain Jinwoo watched the readings on the ancient machines. The defense systems were only at 30% power, not nearly enough to stop the approaching darkness. "What does it need?" he asked. "The pattern must be reinforced," the dragon explained. "It needs to be broadcast not just as data, but as living emotion. The grid feeds on genuine mental states, not just recorded patterns." "You mean someone needs to be feeling that impossible joy while the grid activates?" Minji asked. "Yes, and not just one person. The grid spans the entire galaxy. It needs multiple sources of the same emotional pattern, all resonating together." Taehyun checked his instruments. "The devourers will reach the inhabited worlds in 18 hours. Can we gather enough people in time? The dragon shook its massive head. Most species cannot produce this pattern. Even if we could explain it to them, they lack the psychological framework to find amusement in cosmic horror. Then we do it ourselves, Jinwoo said simply. 5 humans cannot generate enough power for a galaxy-spanning defense grid, the dragon protested. Maybe not, Yuna said thoughtfully. But we can try. Dongyun was studying the readouts from the monitoring stations. Captain, look at this. The stations aren't just broadcasting warnings anymore. They're amplifying whatever signal we send out. Amplifying how? Jinwoo asked. If we can generate the right emotional pattern here, the stations will boost it and spread it across the galaxy. The question is whether we can maintain that pattern long enough. The dragon moved closer to them, its ancient eyes filled with something that might have been hope. You would attempt this? 5 individuals against a threat that has consumed countless galaxies? When you put it like that, Taehyun said, it does sound pretty ridiculous. And suddenly, despite everything, he started to laugh. It wasn't hysterical laughter or nervous giggling. It was genuine amusement at the cosmic joke they were all part of. 5 humans from a small planet standing at the edge of the galaxy, trying to save everyone with the power of finding things funny. You know what's really absurd? Minji said, joining in. Last week my biggest worry was whether I had enough vacation days saved up. Now I'm worried about saving the entire galaxy. I was concerned about my sister's wedding next month, Taehyun added, still chuckling. I kept thinking I might miss it because of work. Turns out I might miss it because reality is being consumed by cosmic horror. The laughter was spreading, not because they weren't afraid, but because the situation was so impossibly huge that fear seemed almost pointless. They were 5 tiny beings in an infinite universe, and somehow they were the galaxy's last hope. The dragon watched in fascination as the human crew found genuine humor in their predicament. I am beginning to understand, it said. You do not laugh because you are unafraid. You laugh because the universe itself is absurd. Exactly, Jinwoo said, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. We're terrified, but we're also amazed that we're here at all. What are the odds that 5 random humans would end up in this situation? Mathematically impossible, Yuna replied. Which makes it funny. The laughter grew stronger as they embraced the complete absurdity of their situation. The monitoring stations began to resonate with their emotional pattern, amplifying it and broadcasting it across the galaxy. But something unexpected happened. The pattern didn't just reach the ancient defense grid. It reached other humans scattered across known space. Human colonies, exploration ships, research stations, and trading posts all received the amplified signal. And humans being humans, they understood the joke immediately. On a mining station, orbiting Proxima Centauri, engineer Kiwan burst into laughter as he realized the cosmic humor of their situation. We're trying to save the galaxy by laughing at it, he told his confused alien co-workers. On the research vessel Curiosity, Navigator Soyeon found herself giggling at the idea that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization might be their sense of humor. Across human space, the pattern spread and multiplied. Each human who understood the joke added their own laughter to the growing resonance. The dragon watched in wonder as the defense grid's power levels climbed. 40%, 50%, 60%. It is working, the dragon said, its mental voice filled with amazement. Your species is broadcasting impossible joy across the galaxy. But the Devourers had noticed the change too. They accelerated toward the galaxy's core, trying to reach the inhabited worlds before the defense grid could fully activate. 70% power, Donghyun reported. But they're moving too fast. They'll reach Earth's sector before we hit full power. Then we need more laughter, Jinwoo said. The dragon suddenly began to glow brighter than they had ever seen it. I can help, it said. I can become a focusing lens for your pattern, broadcasting it directly into the heart of the galaxy. Won't that put you in danger? Minji asked. Almost certainly, the dragon replied. But for the first time in 10 million years, I have hope. I will not let that hope die. The dragon positioned itself at the center of the monitoring station and began to channel the human laughter through its own cosmic consciousness. The pattern amplified beyond anything they had imagined, reaching every corner of the galaxy simultaneously. And then something beautiful happened. The laughter reached other species, not because they understood the joke, but because laughter itself is contagious. Across the galaxy, beings who had never heard human laughter before found themselves responding to its pure joy. A Keltharian merchant found himself chuckling at the absurdity of tiny humans saving everyone. A crystalline entity on Rigel 7 produced harmonic vibrations that sounded remarkably like giggling. Even the ancient Zephyrians, who communicated only through mathematical equations, began transmitting sequences that could only be described as numerical humor. The defense grid hit 100% power. Barriers of pure reality sprang up across the galaxy. Walls of existence itself that the Devourers could not cross or consume. The dark entities crashed against these barriers like waves against stone. For the first time in cosmic history, the Devourers encountered something they could not digest. The sound of an entire galaxy laughing at the cosmic joke of existence. Dark entities recoiled, confused and unable to process what they were experiencing. They had consumed countless galaxies by feeding on fear, despair, and hopelessness. But laughter? Joy in the face of impossible odds? This was beyond their comprehension. Unable to consume what they could not understand, the Devourers retreated back into the dark space between galaxies, defeated not by weapons or shields, but by the universe's ability to find itself amusing. As the immediate threat passed, the laughter across the galaxy slowly faded to chuckles, then to smiles, then to a warm sense of shared community. Billions of beings had participated in saving their own existence, and somehow that felt wonderfully absurd too. The dragon settled its massive form on the station floor, looking more at peace than it had in eons. In 10 million years of searching, it said, "I never imagined the answer would be so simple." "What happens now?" Jinwu asked. Now? Now the galaxy has guardians who understand that existence itself is the greatest joke ever told, and sometimes the best response to cosmic horror is to laugh at it. The crew of the Harmony prepared to return home, knowing they would never be able to fully explain what had happened. How do you tell people that you saved the galaxy by finding the universe funny? But as they departed the monitoring station, they could still hear echoes of laughter from across the galaxy. Beings who had never met humans were sharing the joke, passing it on to their children and their children's children. The universe had learned to laugh at itself, and in doing so, had become immune to despair. The dragon watched them go, then settled into its ancient vigil once more, but this time it was not alone. This time it had 5 billion humans and countless other beings who understood that sometimes the best way to face the darkness is to find it hilariously absurd. And somewhere in the dark space between galaxies, the Devourers drifted in confusion, still trying to understand how prey could become predator through the simple act of finding existence amusing. They would not return to this galaxy. There are some things that even cosmic horror cannot consume. Laughter, as it turns out, is one of them.